You ever seen the sky burn? I have. Whole Hive City lit up like a festival sky because some commissar thought "hold the line" sounded good enough to interpret as orders. Marched across deserts where the sand stripped the hide from our boots, fought through jungles where the air itself tried to choke us out, and froze solid on ice rocks where you prayed your lasgun wouldn't snap in half just from breathing on it too hard. I watched squad mates vanish in the green tide, screaming with their lungs out until there weren't lungs left to scream with. And Throne help me. I've gone hungry long enough to chew on Korps ration bars and tell myself it tasted better than nothing. But you know what? We kept marching. We always keep marching. We're the poor bastards who hold the line so everybody else gets to live another day. And Emperor damn me if I don't mean this with every scar I've earned. I love the Guard. Astramilla what? We're talking about the Guard today, son! And daughter, for the 3 women out there in the audience. Yeah, I'm not even gonna deny it, this one was rigged as fuck. Also, the next time we're gonna hit Imperium again, and this time I'm not putting it up to a vote. I have a topic I've been wanting to talk about for some time, and after watching some recent videos, I want to give my 2 cents on it. But more on that when we loop back and when the iron is dead fucking cold. I have contemplated not doing Guard this time, but the vote was so strong that I couldn't even ignore it if I wanted to. This video is going to delve a bit into a lot of the Guard regiments, members, not really any of the models actually, the more that I look at the script, and so on and so forth, with bits of lore interjected here and there, and a character or 2 here, because the Guard is kind of massive, and I think I can do videos on entire regiments just by themselves. The reason being, well, let's go ahead and get into that. I am Diodium, the man in the broken tower, coming again to talk about everybody's favorite indomitable heathen spirit meme, the Imperial Guard. Or if you call them the Militarum, you're obviously just forbidden from procreating, and that's a fact. The Guard are insane, and one of the most well-loved factions in the setting. In a world where demons are real, hell is ruled by 4 gods, and we are surrounded on all sides by aliens, and said demons, your average defender of humanity is a guy carrying a laser gun. And guess what? He's doing a pretty damn good job at it. But who are the Guard? Where did they come from? And why are they the true Chads of 40k? More on that after this message. We hit 6k, and it hasn't even been a week, I don't think. Thank you, once again, to all those who joined the Warband, and as a reminder, memberships are a thing if you care for that. You get access to the Discord. I'm planning on doing bloopers at some point, so if you guys can make fun of me for sounding like a dumbass, as well as experimental content like battle report videos that will eventually be made free for everybody else. I'm working on one right now, as a matter of fact, both 40k and Kill Team, and after this video comes out, I'm going to be playing Kill Team and recording that as well, but we'll see how it goes. They'll come out more slowly so I don't destroy my normal schedule, because it's bonus stuff. It's not really something that you should be incentivized to pay for. Also, I put your name on a model if you're in the chosen tier or higher, and after a year of being a recurring member, I kit bash a model in your name to represent you in my army at all times. I just thought it'd be neat for all the diehards amongst you. So, the Guard, how did they come around? I'm going to be real, their origins don't matter. Someone is going to tell me that in like M33 during the Horus Humbug, there was a guy named Jaquandus O'Nally or something, and he was the biggest bald baller to ever ball his balls, and he helped form the Solar Auxilia and the Imperial Navy. Nobody gives a fuck. We're talking about Death Corps, Krieg, Cadian, and Vostroyans. So that's it for their origins. Now let's talk about the why. Why do the Imperial Guard exist? So in 40k, there's a sentence that's commonly used to describe the Imperium, and it's that it is 1,000,000 worlds. Let's just do the math really quick. Obviously, not every planet in the Imperium is populated. Those that are vary, and there's not 1,000,000 planets in the galaxy. There's actually far more, but let's assume these are the only habitable ones. So let's take our population on Earth as the average and times it by 1,000,000. That's 8 quadrillion people. This is what a quadrillion looks like. Now times that by 8. That's how many citizens inhabit the Imperium. This is a rough estimate and is obviously not correct, as we have death worlds, hive worlds, so on and so forth, but it gives the idea. So all those people in the Imperium need protection, because they live in a world where demons are real, overgrown shellfish try to eat you, and there's British people, and also walking macro aggressions. Don't you mean micro? No, macro. Have you seen what these guys' guns do? Regardless, everybody needs protection in the God Emperor's Imperium, regardless of whether or not you believe in the Second Amendment, and it's mankind's divine right to inherit the stars. The Imperial Guard are there to remind you, humanity first. Let's talk about some of the gear the Guard uses, since we literally don't have much for the origins, and I just kind of want to talk about some of the insane shit that the Guard have, and also just how fun it is. We'll start simple, the Chimera. It's a basic armored personnel carrier made to not stand up in a fight and just to take glancing blows as it ferries soldiers to their area of operation. It's bulky, fast, does what it says on the tin, but oh no, you forget. While 40k is made by the soulless British, the Guard is very much based on the Marines because they decided to make the Chimera into the Hellhound, a giant bundle of war crimes. Rather than just having standard guns on it, this thing can carry a giant flamer, a giant melta, or my favorite, the chem cannon. This is a mustard gas thrower. No jungle jelly here, just pure German engineering. Also a fun fact, back in older editions, this thing used to blow up on a 4-up rather than a 6 because it was storing volatile ammunition that burst very quickly. So the strategy to do with these things, since they were so cheap, and I mean like as cheap as a squad of guardsmen, was to charge them into the enemy, shoot with all their short-range weapons, and then by the time you get wrapped up in melee and you die, you take down more of them with you. I fucking love this thing. Now let's talk about the actual basic weapons, or specifically the basic weapon, the humble lasgun. It is, in reality, a standard laser rifle. It never jams, it can be disassembled and reassembled by a child faster than an AK-47, it has a battery pack that can last for hundreds if not thousands of shots, and if it ever does run out, and you have no charging station, you can literally just leave it out in the sun to recharge. Slowly, but it's something. It can blow off limbs with ease, punch through modern body armor with the intensity of a 50 cal, shred through concrete. It is the most reliable and perfect weapon compared to our time. It is the weakest weapon in 40k. Stubbers, standard rifles that fire bullets, hit as hard as this thing does. However, there are variants, my main favorite being the hotshot volley gun wielded by the Tempestus Scions. We'll talk about the regiments and subfactions in a moment, but this is like the M247 heavy machine gun George wields compared to Noble 6's MA37. Don't get it twisted, the lasgun can put in work, however this, I like this. A hotshot volley gun is a hotshot lasgun, which means the power limiter on the weapon is more of a suggestion than a warning label. It's far more complicated than that. The hotshots are purpose built to be even better in every way, but then you have the volley gun, which requires so much power that you can't just have a battery pack, you need to have a battery backpack to keep this thing going for a long time. The lasgun is such a versatile and modifiable platform that every Imperial Guard regiment we're about to talk about has a different pattern of lasgun custom fit for their use cases, and I honestly recommend you look them up. The Hellgun, as it's called, is just my favorite of all of them. Shark, add this thing to fucking Darkside now. I can wait on the Melta gun. Give me this and my life is yours. The Guard also has your standard fare of special weapons. The Melta gun, the plasma gun, grenade launchers, rocket launchers, so on and so forth, but you know what's fucking hilarious? Sergeants and other high-ranking officers still carry melee weapons, and we're not saying like ceremonial sabers or anything like that. I'm pretty sure there used to be a commissar kit where they carried a power fist because why the fuck not? The Guard are bog standard humans and they're still trying to go toe-to-toe with orcs in melee combat. That's fucking insane. No matter where you are in the universe, when you join the Guard, you are given a basic infantryman kit. You are given your outfit, weapons, possibly armor, and other survival gear sanctioned by the Departamento Militarum, as well as something called the Imperial Infantryman's Uplifting Primer. Contrary to what people say, it actually does contain some decent advice. It talks about how command structures work, formations, tactics, medical aid, and then of course there's the part that everybody memes on, the section called Know Your Enemy. This is not even propaganda, this is just flat out wrong. Given how information works in 40k and how things flow, I wouldn't be surprised if the person who was printing this genuinely believed everything they wrote down. It talks about how orcs are stunty, fat, slow, and easily beaten in melee with a few bayonet stabs from a safe distance. How they're so clumsy that you can literally parry their attack with a palm strike like those stupid, weird, like, I don't know what you would call them, like those fake Chinese martial artists. I think my favorite part is how they describe Gene Stealers as having blunted claws. Gene Stealers literally rip through Terminator armor with ease. The Guard jokingly, and seriously in some cases, refer to this thing as toilet paper. The Guard vehicles are pretty cool even if they are basic. Firstly, they named their two main tanks after Primarchs because reasons. I think Leman Russ found an STC for a tank and that's why they named it after him. A Leman Russ is super modular and God knows how many other variants there are of it. It used to be one data sheet, but now every main gun is a variant on its own, for better or for worse. The Rogel Dorn is just a mess of weaponry, bulk, and rules. They both come in tank commander forms too, I believe. Fun fact about tank commanders, I have one. I never got around to finishing it, but it's for my trader guard called the Unbound, where everyone looks relatively normal, but there is a specific regiment in the Unbound that uses terror tactics as a form of breaking the enemy's spirit. I don't know if you can tell, but the commissar on the top has limbs on him that aren't his own. Tank commanders are also just fun. You literally get a tank as a character. How can you not love anything about that? The Guard are so much fun, and they're so cool because they're literally just normal men and women of the Imperium taking up arms. Willingly or not, they still do it. How does one maintain their composure through the horrors of the 41st millennia? Well, dear viewer, it's because of the Commissariat, or the Commissars specifically, the bulwark of morale and willpower within the Imperial Guard regiments. I feel like Commissars get memed on too much, and I kind of hate it, but we're going to talk about that and other things, especially something else I hate in the next video, because I feel like breaking up the schedule just for that. Commissars are not just, oh, you're a heretic, blam, meme as they're portrayed. Sure, they do kill cowards and heretics at a moment's notice, and GW thought it would be funny if they ended up making that a rule for them, but a Commissar's job is to maintain the mind and the morale of their soldiers and to do it well. Commissars are the first and possible last line of defense against corruption, cowardice, and incompetence. Sure, he himself is in this position because according to some people, he got to it through sheer luck, or because the Chaos Gods find it funny, or he's the Emperor's silliest little guy. He's another part of the Guard that gets memed on a lot, and we'll be talking about other memes, like I've said, that kind of misconstrue certain sub-factions. But back to Kane. Kane isn't lucky. He's genuinely a good tactician and fighter, and the problem is that he views himself as a complete imposter, as a coward. Sure, he does have some luck sometimes, but it's not what his entire career was built upon. Because of what his career looks like, people hold him up on a pedestal, and when in reality, he's just as fucking terrified with every single opponent he fights. But you want to know what makes him more compelling? Past being a good leader, past caring about the lives and the well-beings of his soldiers, that some of them are still alive because of him, Kane fights because he knows he has to. He's scared, but that doesn't matter when there's literally many more people relying on his guidance and leadership. Go read the Caiaphas Kane series or listen to it. They're some of the best books in Warhammer out there, and Kane is a true definition of what it means to be a commissar. The only second place I feel is Darktide, where you take the voice of command all-time veteran. Everyone getting downed around you, you just shout and bring everybody back up and listen to your character shouting one last battle cry before you all either die or beat the enemy back. I don't want to talk about the Lord Solar, or really Yarick for that matter. Yarick is apparently alive, but who knows? Nobody knows. He got leaked or something at one point. That's not the point. Yarick belongs in the Orc episode. Oh, also, it's October, so there will be an Orc video when we get to Xenos this time around. Probably on Halloween, actually. I don't even think we're going to get to Krieg in this episode. I think he's going to get saved for the Fall of Cadia video I do eventually. Why don't we talk about some Guard regiments, since I'm looking over and we're already halfway over the time, at least in terms of my recording. Let's start with the Militarum Tempestus, part of the Ordo Tempestus, which is, if I'm correct on this, because of how stupid High Gothic is, it literally translates to the Order of the Storm. These guys are ODSTs, and that's not even a meme. They just use jetpacks instead of drop pods. The Militarum Tempestus are recruited from the Schola Progenium, where orphan children of notable members of the Guard or the Imperium, sometimes officers or commissars or so on and so forth, get a full-ride scholarship to train and learn to become anything from a Sister of Battle, Inquisitorial Acolyte, or in this case, a Tempestus Scion. These guys are drilled to perfection. They are the most rigid and unrelenting of the Guard, literally dropping right in front or right behind the enemy for the sole value of shock and awe, and wow, do they fucking do great at it. These guys are literally their own full-on sub-faction that you can play in the Guard right now. They got a bunch of models and are the elite of the Guard. What if you don't want just elite? What if you want the rugged survivors? Enter the Cassrican, Cadian Special Forces from the now destroyed fortress world of Cadia. So we talked about it before, and I may do a video in the future, but the Eye of Terror, when it was created after the Proto Slaanesh, is the only way to enter the warp from real space. The Cadian Gate referred to the fact that Cadia was right in front of the Eye of Terror and was the first defense against it. Turns out the planet had Necron pylons that constrained the Eye of Terror and could even close it if they were turned on properly. Then Abaddon slammed the Blackstone fucking fortress into the planet and cracked it open, and now Cadia is gone and the Cassrican have no home. That doesn't fucking matter to them in the slightest. So Cassrican start off as Cadian White Shields, child soldiers. These guys are monsters, and I don't say that lightly. The difference between a Scion and a Cassrican is that a Scion is an army ranger. Rangers lead the way. Direct confrontation, hostage rescue, recon, so on and so forth. They are a surgical tool. Cassrican are Marine Raiders during the Battle of Okinawa, and these guys are not just special forces, these guys are genuine fucking savages. The Scions are doing some Zero Dark 30 shit, while the Cassrican are probably described the same way as the Marines were described at the Battle of Tarawa, where an Imperial Japanese officer looked to see the coming Marines and claimed, "The gods of death have come." An Inquisitor, a guy who fucking fights and exercises demons, knows the darkest secrets of the Imperium, looked a Cassrican in the eye in his warband. The Kashyyyk was utterly loyal to him, but the look in his eyes made the Inquisitor feel pure dread. Kashyyyk are hardcore for guys without a planet. I'm kind of running out of space on this script now that I'm actually looking at it, so let's just go ahead and hit some of the big ticket regiments. The Death Corps of Krieg come from the now death world of Krieg. Why do I say now? Well, Krieg used to be a semi-decent place, and that was until a civil war broke out and the planet got nuked to shit, becoming an irradiated hellhole planet that ended up being brought under Imperial rule after a very bloody civil war. I think during this war, they kept shelling a secessionist city that surrendered after like 7 years, and then they shelled it for like 9 more years because why not? The Kriegers who remained were an insanely faithful people to the Imperial cult, so when they saw the ruin their ancestors brought to the world, they decided only one thing would suffice. In life, war. In death, peace. In life, shame. In death, atonement. Krieg are not depressed, they're not suicidal, they're just devoted fanatics to the Imperium who believe their sole existence on this earth is to pay their debt in not just their own blood, but the blood of their enemies. For every dead Kriegsman, take the lives of 10 more heretics. A lot of people don't like the shovel meme, and I think it's okay. First off, GW themselves showed a Krieger killing an orc with a shovel, and like, you guys know these things are super fucking sharp, right? Shovels were used as weapons in World War I. They weren't just totally blunt, but the reason why I don't mind the shovel meme is because it taps back into the idea of how fucking horrifying it is to fight human beings. Humans have adrenaline and hysterical strength, and I feel like most people forget that most other species don't have that. A human backed into a corner and on its last legs can fight with broken limbs, missing organs, blood, and do insane shit like lifting up cars off of somebody. Believe me, there are limits to the human body, but I think it speaks more volumes of the insanity and fearlessness that a Krieger would be willing to fight with a shovel against a Chaos Space Marine than to run away. There is no retreating, there is only duty and death. There's a reason why these guys are as popular as Cadians and why Forge World gave them so much love, even if the models were insanely expensive. We're hitting a bit long on this script, but fuck it, let's do a few more regiments. My personal favorite are the Vostroyan firstborn, Russian, Cossack, Slavic? Basically any part of the rural country of the USSR. These guys were making arms and armaments for the Great Crusade, and once the heresy kicked off, Big E himself commanded that all worlds give as many soldiers as possible, including taking people off the production lines of Vostroya. Vostroya knew how important their planet was for supplying weapons, and not only were they supplying a lot, they were supplying them at a very good quality, so they refused the Emperor's order, and what happened? Nothing. Big E didn't punish them for not complying, and their factories continued to produce as much as they could up until the heresy ended, and some say because Vostroya wasn't there to help, Big E died. As atonement, which is self-inflicted as nobody commanded them to do this, the people of Vostroya made it a law. Every firstborn of the family is to enlist, no questions asked. And they have been committing to this for over 10,000 years and counting. Not only do they do that, Vostroyans don't even volunteer, they just show up to engagements and assist regardless of what it is. They do this so often that practically every Vostroyan regiment are veterans. And if they're not, they're usually attached to work with veterans. Also, a more fun fact, Vostroyans come from an industrial world, so their weapons and gear are very well made, to the point where their lasguns are basically heirloom weapons, sometimes literally heirlooms. They're passed down from parent to child. Also, come on, bearskin hats, masks, and goggles? These guys would look like the main villains in any other sci-fi universe, and they're just good dudes doing their job. I got bullied into talking about the Lucifer Blacks. Also, I'm really hoping that what I said was audible because I was kind of moved away from the mic because I'm autistic, so I'm going to try to actually sit up close to it. So every planet has a guard regiment. Sometimes they're called PDFs or planetary defense forces. It depends on whether or not they're on the move or whether they stay on the planet. Every planet has a guard regiment. So what does Terra have? Terra has the Lucifer Blacks, and yeah, fucking look at them, man. These guys were around pre-Unification War, meaning when Terra was Mad Max, these guys were ass-beating and were recognized as the most tenacious normal human fighting force during the Unification War. They were with Big E during the Great Crusade, and if I remember correctly, these normal-ass humans shared the same honor as custodians of being worthy of fighting with him side by side. They were bodyguards, almost. So when Big E died, what happened to them? Their sole mission became defending the Imperial Palace. You might be saying, well, isn't that the Custodian's job? And yes. And guess what? It's very common to see a Lucifer Black and a Custodian working together, if not a guarantee. They ended up waning a bit in power because the War of the Beast is not well written, and like most things in 40k, everything degrades and stagnates, but they have since gained back some of their notoriety. I don't know how else to explain it other than these normal-ass humans are badass enough to guard the same gate that Sanguinius, Rogaldorn, and Vulcan fought against when the combined forces of the 4 Chaos Gods and several corrupted legions. There is zero doubt in my mind that they belong here. The last regiment I want to talk about are the Cadians, and I have a bone to pick with motherfuckers. So a lot of people say they hate Space Marines, despite the fact that Space Marines are the most played faction and the best-selling faction in 40k. Despite the fact that there is a massive vocal minority, and I mean vocal, Space Marines are still pushed and sold and in fact sell very well. You have to have a poster boy for any faction, and Cadians are the poster boys of the Guard. Is it forced? I'd argue no. If you take a look at their gear, they look very Starship Troopers because GW is creatively bankrupt and they wanted their main force to resemble something they liked. The Fortress World of Cadia, you are trained at a young age. You learn to disassemble and reassemble lasguns before you learn like basic algebra. You probably do it before you even learn the alphabet, actually. These guys are made for war. They're made to fight. Yet people hate them, and why? Because they're the standard. Every faction needs a poster boy, and no matter who they are, they're going to get hate. And you know what? Cadian haters, including my friend, suck a dick. Cadians are alright. How the fuck are you gonna hate on the basic infantry? What, because they don't get cool looking gear? Motherfucker, you're buying plastic crack. Unless you play at a Warhammer store, you can go to War Games Atlantic or Anvil Industries or something else and get stuff for literally cheaper and make your kick-ass guard regiment. Go make your kick-ass guard regiment. Do homebrew shit. It's great. It's fun. I want people to be comfortable with making their own shit and putting it on the table, because at the end of the day, the Cadians are here and they're everywhere. They're the standard for the Guard in the game. They fight hard and they fight in innumerable numbers, and you want to know what the best part about them is and why I fucking love the Cadian Guard? Because even as the planet itself was cracking into pieces and we were floating away from each other when the war was lost, when Cadia fell, you could still see lasgun fire across the planet while the rest evacuated. The planet broke before the Guard did. Cadia fucking stands. Cadia is no longer the planet, it is the people that exist across the Imperium fighting for vengeance against the greatest enemy of humanity, chaos. They're holding the fucking line, and I'm tired of people pretending like they're shit. I'm sorry they don't have fur coats or a deep and expanded lore, but that doesn't take away from who they are. They are the goddamn heart and soul of the human spirit. Their home is gone. Many of them watched it get destroyed before their own eyes, and yet they keep on fighting. I think I said it already, I don't really have time to talk about Krieg in this video. I'll save him for a Fall of Cadia video. I forgot to talk about Relics 2 and shit, but honestly, I don't think it really matters though. The regiments matter so much more, the Guard matter more themselves. The Guard are going around using souped up World War I gear and tactics, and they're holding the line against the traitor, the alien, and the heretic, and have been doing it for 10,000 years. And these guys are just normal human men and women, and yeah, there's women in the Guard, not just guys. Girls can hang too, fuck, sometimes they hang better than most people. There are so many characters in the Guard, even characters I don't like, I can see why people like them. The Guard are so well loved, and when they show up in novels they aren't even the main characters of, they end up stealing the show, like Hawk from Storm of Iron or the Castellan that Hanso fought. I know some people don't like the Guard because in a world where you play genetically modified super soldiers, aliens, and little demons, why would you want to play the little guy? Because that little guy is you. And it's nice to think that even if the world was in the worst conditions possible, you'd still be willing to fight. And to end, a quote from Lord Solar Demetrius. I have at my command an entire battle group of the Imperial Guard. 50 regiments including specialized drop troops, stealthers, mechanized formations, armored companies, combat engineers, and mobile artillery. Over 500,000 fighting men and 30,000 tanks and artillery pieces are mine to command. Emperor, show mercy to the fool that stands against me, for I shall not. Thanks for listening. And as always, thank you to these channel members. As the list grows, oh god, I'm going to have to put a stipulation on whether or not I'm going to read gifted people's names, because apparently Lost likes making me suffer. Alexander McCabe, Dismal, Fluffman, Rozo Jerry, they'll tell me. Eternity, Purveyor Tube, George Sword, 10 Ohms, I don't know if that's how you're supposed to say it, 11th Company Captain Anteros, El Tito, Oblivious Mooncake, RM06C, Clincher, Dodo Noob, Adam M, Narvader, Ragnar Odinson, ZGB, I have no mouth and I must mean, G Andy, Gadfly, Dave, is it Dave or is it Dave? No idea. Artisan Cybersmith, Arctic Berserker, Jeremy Bott, Up, Down, Left, Right, Omidium, X, Sam Dynon, Captain Bubbles, Violet Gothic, Delta Crafter, Unnamed, Bagged Soup, Laser, Mark Coyle, Gab Houghton, Josh A35, Corspor, Jake Hoffman, Javier Soto, Giorgio, Alexander Sage, Mount Papa 11, Hannah Olivier, Charmine 26, Orgasmic Potato, I almost got through without laughing, Overdraft Perfection, Nicholas, Celerith, Broken Table Glass 22, Fine Contact, Mitchell Herbert, Really Big, K Mappy. And a bigger thanks to these absolute psychopaths, that being Felix, Grayson Jones, Soloing Pixie, Istra, Ape Brain Esquire, and Neverlostman. Without all of you, this channel would still just be a hobby. Now it's turning into something insane. I'm gonna have to put a stipulation for shoutouts because it's kind of getting a little bit too long, but not yet. Not yet. We're gonna talk about the faction that everybody hates next time. Then you get to vote on your favorite Space Marine chapter. See y'all next week.